Hmm. Hey. Hey. Hey guys, this is Viperstrike here, and welcome to episode 10. It's good to see that everyone's here to make it here today. So, um, I had a pretty interesting weekend. I had to help move my brother's stuff, so I'm very happy to get everything prepared for Sunday. So we are here in Cooperstown Westville Airport, Kilo 23, which is about 4 miles outside of Cooperstown, New York. And Kozaki Flyers in the chat. It's good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Oh yeah, you're trying to tucker it out of the epic flight. I completely understand. I mean, I want to give a, I want to I want to say congrats to Allison Johnson. I'm so happy that she managed to actually complete this flight. I, I can understand how difficult it is. I mean, 31 legs with well over 100 plus hours of flying in real life time. Like, it's insane what she'd done. All that time flying, it's amazing. I'm so happy she got to complete the journey, and honor Amelia and her in the best way by completing the journey. And I was there during the last part of it. I had some stuff to do for tomorrow. I wanted to get some rest, but I still joined in and got the pictures, and that's why I'm very happy for her. I know the ending was so awesome. I completely agree with you, Kazaki. The ending of that stream was awesome. And I can't wait to see Amy Johnson's flight because I think that's going to be a really fun and interesting flight for next time. I can't wait to see what she does next, especially with the steering. I'll definitely join along with that. So for guys that don't know, for guys who want to know where we're going today, well, on my nav map, we are actually heading to Toronto for today's stream. We'll take off here from Cooperstown on leg 1, and we'll be heading down, going past Syracuse and landing at Kilo Sierra Delta Charlie at Williamson Sodas Airport. And then we'll be for leg 1, and then leg 2 we'll be going from there to Buffalo, New York, through Rochester, and then for the last leg we'll fly through the city of Buffalo, Niagara Falls, and then go across Lake Ontario to the city of Toronto. So we can check out the Blue Jays as well. So that's going to be where we're going to be playing today. Now the question is what kind of plane do I want to take for this flight? Well, it's this plane right here. This isn't just any sort of plane. There's a lot of different general aviation planes, but this is an Extra 300L. It is one of the preeminent planes in aerobatics, and this plane could do some insane aerobatic stunts that you wouldn't even believe this plane is capable of. It could turn up to plus 6 Gs, 6 Gs plus, and it has amazing handling and such. Now, unlike other general aviation planes, this thing doesn't really have flaps to really slow down, so you're going to be extra careful when we're going to have to land this thing. But the other advantage is this thing can go really, really fast. Such a fun plane in a short runway. So it looks here, we got the glass cockpit, we got the RPM airspeed meter, the altimeter, direction, and the acceleration thing. This is kind of looks like the cockpit. But the best part about this plane, look at the visibility. You have incredible visibility. You can see so much out of it. It's such a fun thing to do. It's an absolute blast to fly. So before we get started, there is something I do want to point out for the slideshow, and we're going to get started with probably Cooperstown. I like to nickname it that episode because it's a reference to Canada, which is the Canadian national anthem, but I just put Cooperstown just because it's fun. So Cooperstown, New York is actually located in Otsego County, New York, and it's actually a small village. And while most of it's within the town of Otsego, some of it's in the eastern part of Middlefield, New York, Cooperstown is most well known for the National Baseball Hall of Fame Museum, which is why I want to fly around there today. And some notable people include Abner Doubleday, Bud Fowler, and Samuel F.B. Morse. Now, particular Abner Doubleday was supposedly the, apparently some people claim that he was the one who invented baseball back in the 1850s. And he was a Civil War veteran, but it turned out baseball historians say he didn't actually really invent baseball. It later proved that he didn't, and someone else did. Bud Fowler was actually one of the first black baseball players to play in the major leagues. And yes, Samuel F.B. Morse was the guy who founded the Morse code. So definitely a very interesting guy, to say the least. Especially finding the Morse code. And then we actually get to the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Now the National Baseball Hall of Fame was established all the way back in 1939, though the first class was inducted back in 1936. And it displays many baseball-related artifacts and exhibits, and they honor those who have excelled in playing, managing, and serving the sport of baseball. As of January 2020, 303 people have been elected to the National Baseball Hall of Fame. And of those 333 players, 234 of them were former Major League players, 35 of them belong to the Negro Leagues, and I'll talk more about those when we get to Kansas City. 23 managers, 10 umpires, and 36 pioneers, executives, and organizers as well. Which is pretty really interesting to think about. And yes, there has been one female member in the National Baseball Hall of Fame. Effa Louise Manley was elected. Now, this is really cool. And the museum consists of 3 different floors, each having its own separate area, which is kind of really interesting to point out here. And finally, for 10 years, if you're on the ballot for at least 10 years, you'll be elected mostly by the Baseball Writers Association of America. And they usually elect players on the ballot. The other thing is, if they're not on that Hall of Fame ballot, they can still be making it to the Hall of Fame if they are elected by the Veterans Committee. So there's 2 ways you can get elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame as well. And any player named on the 75% or more is elected to the Hall of Fame. So definitely some very interesting things to point out here. Now for Baseball Hall of Fame classes. Now, each of these is some of the greatest classes of all time, and I've looked that up. So, the class of 36 was the inaugural class, but I mean, it contained 6 of the best baseball players of all time: Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, Honus Wagner, Christy Mathewson, and Walter Johnson. I went over a bit about Babe Ruth, and Babe Ruth was one of the greatest players of all time. I've already covered Honus Wagner, one of the big icons of the early 1900s. And I also mentioned about Walter Johnson a bit. I'll get more when we get to the Twins, because he's part of that franchise, even though he played in Washington. Christy Mathewson was a really good player. He was one of the best pitchers of all time in his era. And then Ty Cobb, probably the greatest. His batting average was the highest of any player in Major League history. Ty Cobb was absolutely a legend. And when we do the Tigers, I'm gonna definitely talk a lot more about Cobb, because he's actually quite the player to talk about. The 1937 class fixed some of the mistakes of the previous ones, which got in Cy Young, Nat Ladgerly, and Tris Speaker. Cy Young, I mentioned him in the Boston series. He's the winningest pitcher of all time. Nat Ladgerly was so influential that they even named a baseball team after him. The Indians actually once were named the Cleveland Naps. And Tris Speaker, one of the more iconic players of his era. Then we have the 47 class, which contained the great screwball pitcher Carl Hubble. Then they also include Lefty Grove, Frankie Frisch, and Mickey Cochran. And then 1999, which is a more recent one, included all-time Royals great George Brett, the flamethrower Nolan Ryan, and finally Robin Yount. And then the most recent great class contained Craig Biggio, who was one of the greatest Houston Astros, and then 3 of the best pitchers of their respective of the same era: Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson, and John Smoltz, all iconic pitchers of the 1990s and 2000s. So definitely something to keep in mind here before the flight. So now after we get this, I'm going to go ahead and get this flight started. So let's go start the engine. Tanks are set properly. We get the battery switch, alternator is on, the wingtip and strobe lights are both on. Let's set the prop RPM to max. I think that's already checked. We start the engine. We're going to open it by a 1/4 inch. Now we get the bridge. Boom. Now we get the ignition started, which is all the way right here. Start oil pressure's checked, and now we turn on the avionics switch, which is go. Boom. Now we go ahead and get this thing taken off. Now, something I do need to be careful here. Is get this thing lined up. Oh, careful. And we're off. Yes, I had to keep the tail that stable because this plane has a lot of power. It's lightweight, so you're gonna have to compensate for that for a bit. Look at that. This thing it's such a fun plane to fly. Woo! What a fun plane fight. Hello there, Martel. Good to see you in the chat. And thank you for the follow there, Martel. I really appreciate you following. It was about 3 hours ago, but thank you for the follow. That was such helpful. Thank you. So if you want to know where I'm joining, I'm on the East USA server, and I just took off from Cooperstown, Westville, which is within about a couple. I just passed it. Now over here, guys, I gotta adjust the trim. So in front of me right here, this is Cooperstown, New York. This is where the National Baseball Hall of Fame Museum are located. And right in front of us is actually which is actually going to be, it's actually a single lake, which is right in front of us. Very beautiful location. So we're going to fly around that for a sec. Absolutely beautiful today. There's Doubleday Field to my left. Is that little Miley ballpark. And that big building behind me is going to be the National Baseball Hall of Fame Museum. So definitely a very cool place to look around and fly around for a sec. So we're going to get back into the air for a bit. But I mean, yeah, this thing has incredible visibility. You can see so much out of it. So definitely put some trim on it just to try to hopefully keep this thing level a bit, because just try to keep this thing. I found this plane hard to fly. I know it's hard to get the trim right, and the other thing that's really hard is it's also hard to land because this thing has no flaps. Now the Stearman isn't so difficult to land because it's much slower, but this is a much faster plane, so it's gonna take a bit of a while to get going to there. And hello there, friends all. Welcome to the chat. Good to see you. It's such a hard one to fly. So now, since the last time we talked, where you are now, I just went past Cooperstown, in New York. According to my nav map, if you want, here's I found the closest airport you can join me from, and that is Tri-County Airways, which is Nickel Yankee 53. And if you want a general aviation airport, Hamilton Municipal is the closest, which is Kilo Victor Golf Charlie, which is another pretty close airport you can always spawn into. What a bird to fly, that's for sure. Yeah, this plane can get really fast when it really wants to. It's a very, very fast plane, faster than I was expecting. Extra. Yeah, I actually spent a lot of time with the extra there, Kazaki. I've had a lot of experiences, and I remember just passing through Murph when he does his pre-start. Sometimes I take the extra and just zip past him and all that buzzing with the extra. Yeah, the extra is kind of a plane I'm pretty specialized in. Though, if you want to look at my real specialty there, Kazaki, it's actually the bush planes. The Cubs and stuff are really what I'm also good at, too. Stunt planes and bush planes are the ones I'm really good at. So, for you guys that, just since the last time we talked, the All-Star game, Major League Baseball, happened this past weekend. was Major League All-Star Game, and it was absolutely awesome. The home run derby was amazing. Pete Alonso won that whole derby. He crushed over 70 home runs in that derby, including 35 in the first round, which destroyed Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s record of 29 in 2019, which is absolutely insane. Like Pete Alonso was a monster. He won that home run derby very well. Trey Mancini did a great job in the derby. And for those who don't know, he actually beat cancer this past offseason and played really well for the Orioles, and he absolutely shocked a lot of people. He beat Joey Gallo in the first round, and then not only did he actually beat Olsen, he actually managed to get past Juan Soto and Trevor Story, and now he made it to the finals. I mean, that was such a great performance. He did fantastically as well. I mean, I'm proud of the home run derby. Went really well this year, and yes, home runs absolutely flied out of Coors Field. It was marvelous to watch. As well. Now, the All-Star game was great. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. absolutely dominated the All-Star game. He was the MVP. And actually, speaking about Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he's actually now the star, one of the major stars of the Blue Jays this year. He's been really good. MVP level player, and I think he has potential to absolutely become a superstar. Like, Guerrero Jr. is amazing. Also, for the All-Star game, give a shout out to Mike Zunino of the Rays. Hit a home run. And the American League won their 8th straight All-Star game. Now, that was very fun to watch. That was for sure. What a great All-Star game. To point that out. And I see you there, friend all. I think that's you out there. Boom. But I mean, yeah, the New York countryside is absolutely beautiful in New York. Like, I know a lot of people talk about in-state New York, but it's really the north parts of New York that can be really beautiful to fly around, especially in a bush plane or all that. There's so many good sights. So definitely something to keep in mind too as well. So we're not too far away, but we're getting close to our first destination city for today. And we're actually going to be flying through one of the largest cities in New York. In fact, the 5th most populous city in the state, Syracuse, New York. Now, Syracuse actually is the 5th most populous city, following the city of New York City, Buffalo, Rochester, and yes, Yonkers, New York. That's a real town. Syracuse is number 5 on that list. Now, historically, the city was actually as a major crossroads as a transport hub. In the early part of the 1800s, that was due to the Erie Canal. The Erie Canal played a major role in the growth of Syracuse. Then after the railway industry took it back in the 1850s, it became a major railroad hub. Syracuse is most well known today for the Erie Canal Museum, Syracuse University, nicknamed the Orange, with an actual orange as the school's athletic mascot, and the New York State Fair. All of them are major important keys. And as a baseball fan, Syracuse is also home to the Syracuse Mets, who are the AAA affiliate of the New York Mets and will be flying over the ballpark as well. Now, for some notable people, the city of Syracuse is most well known for Tom Kenny, who was born in Syracuse, and he actually is most well known for voicing a particular yellow sponge named SpongeBob SquarePants. For any of those that didn't know, now you actually know he's a Syracuseite. The next one is one of the most iconic metal singers in metal history, Ronnie James Dio, the vocalist for Dio, but also also voiced Black Sabbath and other metal bands. And finally, BMX legend Dave Mirra as well. Really iconic stuff for the city of Syracuse, New York. And definitely something a lot of people are very interested and learn more about. Definitely something to point out and to be interested in really as well. But man, look at the countryside. It's just such an... I might have to buzz around to see if Syracuse for a bit. But definitely very nice. So I want to ask you guys in the chat, so how's everything going this past weekend? I know I've had a very busy weekend with helping my brother move to his first house. So I just want to ask you all how things have been for all of you. There I see you there, friend all. I see you in the Bonanza, I believe. This is one of the big things I absolutely love about the extra. Like I can't say this enough. The visibility is just incredible. Look, I mean, look, I can see the clouds. I can see the plains and countryside. It's just that is absolutely stunning. It's boom. That was, yeah. I love these cross country flights. Yep, these cross country flights are awesome, Martel. I completely agree. I want. In fact, I was thinking on stream, one of these days, potentially, when if I get an extra day, I might even do my own bush flying series, backcountry flying series at some point, and fly and do some general fly arounds of many of the most iconic backcountry sites in the world. Some in the U.S., some in Canada. Maybe we bush fly somewhere in Nepal, Nepal or Japan or something. With Cubs and other soul points like that would be cool. Absolutely awesome. Yeah. Very, very beautiful place. Like I said, I love flying these countryside flights. Like GA planes are awesome. Like don't get me wrong, I like the airliners. I definitely see why people like airliners, but the appeal to me has always been general aviation. GA all the way, as Murph said. And I definitely agree with him. Sports trivia. Yep, that's true. It does not have AC. It's powered by actual yep. Hey there, DH Paradox. Good to see you. It's good to see you in the chat. This is really awesome. So we're actually flying to Toronto today, DH. And we're very well on our first stop, which we're getting pretty close to the city of Syracuse, New York. The 5th most populous city in the state of New York. Yeah, you finally caught my stream. It's good to finally see you there. Carrier inventor. In fact, the funny thing is, actually, Carrier Dome does have AC, despite the fact the company that made the Carrier Dome. In fact, air conditioning was just established this past year in 2020. Previously, the Carrier Dome was actually not really considered until now. And it made the place a lot more comfortable now that it has AC. Also, here's an interesting fact for all. The Carrier Dome is not just used for football, and I know it can also turn into a basketball arena. In fact, if it's converted to a basketball arena, it's the largest in all of college basketball, with a capacity of around 36,000 for basketball. To put it in perspective, the next previous one below it is the KFC Yum Center in Louisville, Kentucky, and that only holds like 22,000. So definitely something really interesting to point out for Syracuse. And actually, that's going to be one of the waypoints for our flight to Syracuse. We're going to go over the Carrier Dome, which is going to be pretty cool. We can see it in person as well. Which, look at that. It is just, what a stunning place to fly, that's for sure. The name tags look different. Yep, this is a name tags mod. I got this from flightsim.to, DH Paradox, and it customized the name tags and all that. I changed it to green because it will stand out a lot more with the name tags. I want my name tags to actually stand out so I can see who's who a lot easier. And this is also something that a good friend of mine, Colonel Fork, actually uses. And well, and speaking of Colonel Fork, and speaking of Colonel Fork A5, if you like just all around great GA flying, or you like NASCAR and such, Colonel Fork is the guy for you. On Tuesdays, he usually does his general flying stuff. On Thursday, he does his own NASCAR series, Chase the Cup series, which is inspired by the real world of NASCAR. By the real world of NASCAR, driving through all the tracks of the NASCAR season's schedule this year. And on Saturdays, Colonel Fork does some iRacing content. So if you like all around really good content and really enjoyable, I recommend checking him out and giving him a follow. I think you would really appreciate it. DH Paradox says, any chance that this also highlights your friends? Unfortunately, it is not. It does not highlight your friends at all. That would be interesting if it did highlight my friends, but I don't think this mod does. So I say no. You're welcome. You're welcome, DH. That is actually a pretty good question to ask. I think, okay, the fuel's good. I think we have enough fuel to get to the next leg. So we're getting near the city of Syracuse, so we're going to go ahead and turn for a bit. Thankfully, Syracuse is actually has some photogrammetry, so we can fly over some of the landmarks of the city. I'm gonna go down to look into a lower altitude. Now we're getting very close to Syracuse. And I think ahead of us is going to be the Carrier Dome. Which is a very massive dome itself. There's the Carrier Dome right in front of us. Which is this big dome area right. Actually, that's not the Carrier Dome. This is the Carrier Dome in front of us. This is the Carrier Dome, guys. Syracuse, New York. This is right near Syracuse University. Call the Orange. Woo. This is fun. Yeah. It's not the most practical plane, but I mean, it is a very fun plane to fly. Absolute joy of a plane to fly, that's for sure. See all of the Syracuse landmarks down here. Definitely as well a very beautiful. Now I'm going to go do a quick turnaround for a bit. So this ballpark stadium down here, right here. This is the ballpark of the Syracuse Mets, the AAA affiliate of the New York Mets. They used to be called the Syracuse Chiefs, but they renamed back in 2018. So there it is, the Syracuse Mets ballpark. So definitely something very interesting to point out. And we're flying over a pretty nice looking lake. This is actually Onondaga Lake, which is right outside the city of Syracuse. But definitely a very nice looking area right here. I mean, it's just such a smooth thing as well. And everyone just disappeared. Drop from Emma servers. Um, Let me go ahead and reset the servers. I just reset the servers, DH. Yep, I have my own Discord. You're DH if you want to join. Yep, I have my own Discord. So that way, if you want to keep any updates for my stream, you'd be more than welcome to. I really appreciate you joining there, DH. You know what? I'm still relatively new to this whole community as well. Even though I played the game back in 2014, DH, I'm still kind of new to all of this as well. In fact, I only joined the two-tone Murphy thing all back in February, so I'm still relatively new to this whole thing. In fact, I only started streaming only 2 months ago as well, so I still have a long way to go. But like I said, I've been learning a lot as well. I think it's really good that we both can learn from each other to make things better. So actually, for you guys who don't really, I guess I gotta tell you guys this. So if you wonder why I streamed last week on Saturday, it's because I had a baseball game on that past Sunday, and I actually had a great time with it. In fact, 12 people came, which consists of my family and friends of my family came, and we came to watch the Louisville Bats play baseball, which has been my first Bats game in well over 2 years since 2019 had COVID. So this will be my first Bats game in almost 2 to 3 years, which is pretty crazy. But Louisville Soccer Field went through a lot of more than a few renovations and stuff, and Louisville Soccer Field still looks good as ever. I'm a bit newer than you as far as NSFS. Yep. Yep. Roger that, DH. Like I said, that's one of the great things about this community is that there are so many people in the community that's willing to help each other out, help new players enjoy the game, and we're incredibly grateful we have such a wonderful community. In fact, I wish I would have found this community a long time ago. Had I known this awesome community existed, I mean, I wouldn't be really doing all this sort of stuff today, like all the streaming and such. So I'm very grateful for it. So, I think you guys want to know what's about beyond the shores. Well, to my right, this looks like Lake Ontario, which is the major lake, is one of the 5 Great Lakes, alongside Lake Erie, Lake Huron, Lake Michigan, and Lake Superior as the 5 Great Lakes. This is one of the 5. And it's also the smallest of the 5 Great Lakes as well in terms of area. So there's quite a few people on here today. In terms of people for Flight Sim, there's CL, and he's doing his What the Flock, which is his own game show. I know 757 Spies on, and there's a lot of different Flight Sim communities. There's a lot of great, excellent streamers to watch too. So, like I said, that's what I also like about the Flight Sim community. There's a lot of great streamers to watch. They're very entertaining, very knowledgeable, and I think they're just generally good people. I think they're just really mean a lot to the community. I know I've watched a lot of streamers that don't really care about the community, but this Flight Sim community is just awesome. Wonderful people. Mm. And in my, yeah, all of them have been super nice. I know there are so many nice people. I mean, that's one of the things I love about. Every time I had an issue, they're just so fun to talk to. In fact, I think there are 2 people that I really want to thank for getting me there. Obviously, the first one is the guy who I think got this was my first guy who I got in community with, and I'm someone I'm very proud of. Actually, let me fix that, shall we? First is Tuto Murphy. He is actually the first Fights community I really joined, and I'm still a very proud member. In fact, it's on my About page. I'm a very proud member of the Tuto Murphy's Flying Circus. And Murph's community is awesome, filled with so many awesome people as well that gave me a lot of inspiration for me to even do this streaming. Murph was a huge help for me to get all of this stuff set up and provided me a lot of motivation to make sure they do things right. Murph is such a fun and entertaining guy. He makes any day really enjoyable to be around. Such a great personality. He is what I think a streamer should be. Just someone who's fun, entertainment, and loves their community. The other person I really that really helped me out into streaming, and I wouldn't even be doing this without her. She got all the stream stuff set up. I want to give Allison Johnson a shout out. She's earned it. She completed her Amelia Earhart journey, but she's just such a wonderful person to be around. She's a very nice person to be around. In fact, if it wasn't for her helping me out, I wouldn't even be here talking to you guys today. So I want to give her a shout out. These are the two most important people to help me get started on this as well. Very, very proud to be among this community. Well, I think we're not too far from our airport. We should be getting there relatively quickly. So I'm gonna, on my nav map, I think I should probably go straight in at runway 28. Now landing is the tricky part with this. Okay, flying a straight level isn't difficult once you get the trim. It's landing this thing that might be an even bigger deal. Deej, Allison's good. I already follow her. Yep, Allison's wonderful. She's so good at it. And I can't wait for her next journey with Amy Johnson's flight from England to Australia in the Stearman. It's going to be such a fun flight, and to take the Stearman too, which is it's going to be a great sightseeing journey. That's for sure. And of course, I also got some really big fans too, as well. I also like to think Splasher6, yep, I'm gonna give him a shout out too. Splasher6, really, really awesome guy to help me out. Splasher6, really nice guy to help me out. He's a fun, chill streamer, really fun to talk to. He does a lot of really fun stuff. On Wednesdays, he's doing the Pan American Highway journey, which goes he's doing it all the way from Argentina, Chile, all the way to the northern part of Alaska, which is a very, very long journey. And then on Fridays, he does a relaxing, fun flight every Friday. And he'll do flybys by chat or any good choice. But I really enjoy Splasher, and he helped me get set up for the add-ons linker, which has been a real lifesaver for me. I can download and use whatever mods I want. So I want to give Splasher6 a shout out. I think he's really earned it. I hope you give him a follow. I think he would really appreciate it. I don't think he's that far off of 100 followers. So I think anyone who hasn't followed him, I think helping him get to the 100 followers goal would be really, really supportive. Now we're getting down. This is going to be interesting. Since this plane doesn't have flaps, it's not going to be easy to slow this plane down at all. It's going to be a bit of a tricky one. Oh boy. Yep, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be an interesting approach, that's for sure. This is going to be really tricky. Oh boy. Whew. That is not an easy plane to land. This is a very tricky. Whoa. Bounce. The tailwind bounced. No, no. Oh god, the wheel bouncing. Whoa. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. Oh boy. Sorry. Oh no. Hey, all you people crap on this thing has no flaps. Martell is here. Bye bye propeller. Good thing I got the crash damage signs off. I see Martell down. And I see you there. So I'm gonna go ahead and gonna exit out here for a sec, and so I can load in the next fight plan. So so there's definitely some really interesting things to go on here today. So apparently, I found some interesting news. I had a hard time closing on you. The extra's really fast. I know the extras are really fast plane. And actually, if you fly at level with full throttle, it can go up to 170 knots. Usually, its cruise speed is 150. Very true. VATSIM is VATSIM tolerant for pilots? I think VATSIM's pretty strict. Um, Jordan, hey, Goblin Zeus, my good friend Goblin Zeus. It's good to see you. Yep. Mm. So, as I said there, first of all, it is pretty strict for newcomers. You're going to need some bit of training beforehand to show how everything works. But VATSIM can be really helpful if you're aspiring to be a pilot. It had some bit of simulation training, which is very nice for newer pilots as well. So definitely going to have to restart everything again. That's why I always bring my checklist on. The battery switch is located here. Alternator on. Nav light on. All on. So Martel says, I always slam the prop on the ground even when flying a tail dragger. Yeah, that's one of the issues with the tail dragger. That's why if I always practice with tail dragger planes, I always, always practice doing stall landings. Take a Savage Cub or a Shock Ultra, or even the X Cub, and just practice doing the short landings and stuff, and get used to doing that. I think that would be a really big help, and something I want to do my own bush pilot stuff. So I think doing these practices is going to be really good and be really helpful. as well. The S300 is not an easy plane. It's not easy. Okay, flying it isn't too difficult once you get the trim down. It's actually landing and taking off that's going to be the more difficult thing. Because this plane has so much power and it's such a light airframe, you're going to probably be worrying about it. And if you have to take off, you're going to need to counteract it with the rudder. So that way you can keep the plane stable. It's kind of like taking off with the Spitfire, if you ever flew that plane. Spitfire is really powerful, so you're going to need to control that for a bit. It's the same thing applies with the extra in the pits. Because of all that crazy power, you're going to need to counteract it with the rudder. So it's definitely not an easy plane to fly. That's for sure. It's a really tricky plane to kind of take off with. Whoa. I definitely need to slow down. No. Okay. Oh, God. Hey, this is not a car that can stop in a short distance. Now, for the next leg of the trip, we will be we're going to actually land from Westville here. We're going to go from here we're going to go past the city of Rochester, and we will be heading down the city up. And we'll be landing at Buffalo Niagara International, which is located outside of the city of Buffalo. I'm going to go ahead and take off. Now watch, you definitely gonna balance, and we're off. Yes, balance, change server. No problem there, Zeus. I'm just gonna hover around the airport for a bit. Yeah, I wanted to take a stunt plane here for today. I wanted to bring something fly, especially when we fly over the city of Toronto. I want to do some fun flying. Whoa, no. Oh, God. Okay, forget you all saw that. Okay, that was weird. Pretend you all never saw that crash. Yeah, that's a thing that can happen to the extra sometimes. Sometimes you lose control and it'll crash. So that's something you got to be a little careful. That'll buff right out. Yeah, it probably would buff out there because oh no. I also been reminded of that time I remember when I went to Pennsylvania. I had some major autopilot issues and I crashed into that. I still remember. You took the 172 Bush version with big wheels. That's a nice plane, but the extra's gonna go way faster than that. The extra can go much faster than that. So the next part of my slideshow we're going to cover is the city of Rochester. It's the third most populous city in the state of New York. only New York City and Buffalo are the two larger cities, but it has a population of 205,695 people as of 2020. Rochester was known as one of the first boom towns in the country back in the 1800s, and it was initially due to the fact it had the Genesee River Valley, which is what connects the city of Rochester. Now, Rochester, in addition to this as well, was also the birthplace of some of America's most iconic companies, including Eastman Kodak, Xerox, and Bausch & Lomb. It also has other brands like Wegmans, Western Union, French's, and many other brands were all came from the city of Rochester. So it's a very important business hub for the state of New York. Which speed? Crank up the Merlin. This thing does not have a Merlin. It's an Aerobax plane. Now there are some quite interesting things about Rochester to talk about. The Strong National Museum of Play, the George Eastman Museum, and Frontier Field are all landmarks in the city. Frontier Field in particular is home to the AAA affiliate of the Twins in the Rochester Red Wings. In fact, one of the unique nicknames of Rochester, New York, is it's actually been nicknamed the Flower City, and that's due to the fact that the flowers, because it's actually where a lot of the flowered stuff goes. As well. Now, some notable people include Malcolm Glazer. Malcolm Glazer is actually in the United States. He actually owns Fulham, which is the soccer team from the UK. But he also owns the NFL's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mary E. Clark, who was the first woman to reach the rank of Major General during World War II. And Walter Hagen, one of the greatest golfers of his time. AKA the father of modern day golf, comes from Walter Hagen. So definitely something as well. We're gonna fly over. We should get there pretty quickly. I'm gonna try to do a loop. Changing plane. Look at that, a loop. Look out, squirrels. Look out, squirrels. I see Atomic Terror Pig and some users in the chat. I also see Atomic Terror Pig and Rogers RC. Good to see you all in the chat. Nice to see you around here. Loops are always tough to do. Yeah, loops are always difficult there, Kozaki. Loops can be really tricky and difficult, per se. Hmm. In these maneuvers, you always lose station awareness. I take the extra out. Beware of landing taking off. Yep. Always beware of that. Always, always beware of that. Absolutely beware of this sort of thing. Martell says, in these maneuvers, you always lose situational awareness. Yep. Now, unfortunately, unlike Syracuse, Rochester is not photogrammetry into the sim. So, we don't have to worry about the frames news much. Now, I do have a Discord, guys, so if you don't mind, I actually have my own Discord channel. Click the link and follow my Discord. We can do some chats. I'll usually post my own pictures of the destination cities for my own stream. And we can talk all sorts of different things in the chat. And most importantly, this will be a great place to keep updates for my channel and my streams. So if you want to, feel free to more welcome and join the Discord. Just as long as you follow the rules, you'll be perfectly good. So this is the Flower City. There's the Genesee River, which connects the city. Should be straight ahead. There's the city of Rochester. Just gotta navigate through the buildings. So there's Frontier Field. Unfortunately, it's got an office building in front of it, which stinks. Don't know why, but it does. But definitely very nice to be around here for today. So next is going to be, after the city of Rochester, now let's actually get to one of our main topics here today. And now we talk about baseball in Canada for a bit. So baseball actually has a long history in Canada. It actually came into Canada during the 19th century, when a lot of people were traveled from many British immigrants brought in games like rounders and such, which, by the way, for those who don't know, rounders is one of the major precursors to baseball, to modern day baseball. So in fact, it brought over and eventually became baseball. And it's played through various levels of competition throughout the country. And around 75 Canadian cities and towns have been home to minor league baseball teams, including those from previous and the past. However, of all those teams in Canada, there's only one major league affiliated minor league team, and that is the Vancouver Canadians of the Class A Northwest League. And by the way, they are an affiliate of the Blue Jays as well. In addition to this as well, there's now only one team in Major League Baseball that's in Canada right now, the Blue Jays. Previously, there was one other team in Canada called the Montreal Expos, and that is actually where we're going to be going for next week. Is after this, we'll be heading to Montreal. If your friends can stand it, this one should do well inside New York or Chicago. Yep. And don't worry, Kazaki, we'll be landing in Toronto City Center, so it won't be very far to land once we get to Toronto. It wouldn't be a problem. Now the first Canadian to actually appear in the major leagues was a guy named Bill Phillips. He's the first Canadian to make the league, and the first actual Canadian in the National Baseball Hall of Fame is pitcher Ferguson Jenkins, who played for a lot of years in Chicago and such. So I definitely think about interesting about him as well. Now, in terms of other stuff, now let's get to the heart of the matter: the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, the Blue Jays were established in 1977 as an expansion team for the American League, alongside the Seattle Mariners, and are currently now the only team in Canada. As if you watched my Washington episode, for those who watched that, the Expos relocated to DC to become the Nationals back in 2004. The name Blue Jays actually originates from an actual bird called the blue jay. And in 1976, out of 4,000 suggestions, 154 of them selected the Blue Jays, and that eventually won the contest for the renaming process. So, previously, they played at Exhibition Stadium, which is located in the Exhibition Grounds of Toronto, and now they currently have played in Rogers Centre, the stadium they have played since 1989. The team colors, they have 4 different colors: royal blue, navy blue, red, and white. They do have alternate uniforms as well, where they wear the powder blue. So that is the previous colors. The Blue Jays have actually won 2 World Series championships, and mind you, they were back-to-back in 92 and 1993. 2 American League pennants, and 6 American League East Division champion titles, which is not bad for a franchise back in 1977. But the most interesting thing I figured out was one of the most interesting facts: the Toronto Blue Jays are only one of 2 major league franchises to be under corporate sponsorship, as the other franchises are the Braves, and the Jays are owned by Rogers Communication, which also gives the team the naming rights to the Rogers Centre. Definitely very interesting to point out. Now, the player on our right, that guy is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He is the new young star for the Toronto Blue Jays. This guy is really good. And if you wonder why he's Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he is the son of Hall of Fame outfielder Vladimir Guerrero. And trust me, we'll do some talking about Vladimir Guerrero in a few weeks. So definitely, so how did the Blue Jays exactly originate? Well, in 1977, the Blue Jays were approved of the 1977 MLB expansion discussions. Originally, they were supposed to get the San Francisco Giants, but that failed, so instead they got an expansion team. And they played their first game back in April 7th, 1977. I actually have that game on my Discord for Sports Media. However, the thing that made it most well known was the fact that before the game started, there was a minor snowstorm that happened before the game started, and Toronto actually won that game, won the game 9-5, and it was led by Doug Alt's 2 home runs, who they picked from the expansion draft. That win would only be one of 54 of the 1977 season, as they finished last in the American League that year with a 54-107 record, which wasn't that great. In the next year, they only won 5 games more the next season, and they still remained finished last. which is not that great for the Blue Jays as well. In 1983, they actually finally got their first winning record. They won 89 games, but they finished in 4th place, finishing 9 games behind the eventual world champions, the Baltimore Orioles, which is another team named after birds. In 85, the Blue Jays actually won their first AL East title, one of its first division titles. They won 99-62, which is still the franchise record for the most wins in franchise history, led by guys like Dave Steve and Tony Fernandez. They actually faced the Royals in the ALCS, but they lost to the eventual World Series champion in 7 games. They could have made the World Series that year, but they lost. In 1986, they kind of led off their success back to 4th place. In 87, they actually choked a 3.5 game lead with a week to go, but they lost their last 7 in a row to finish 2 games behind the Tigers, which was kind of humiliating for the Blue Jays fans. But thankfully, things were about to get better, though, in the early 90s. First, Toronto opened its new state-of-the-art stadium, the Sky Dome, which, for those who don't know, and I'll talk more when we get to the specific ballpark, this is the world's first retractable roof stadium. Successful one, too. And it proved to be extremely successful for the franchise, and it became a successful 5-year period for the team. In '89, they actually won the AL East. After starting off with a 12-24 record, they managed to win the AL East and faced the Oakland Athletics in the ALCS, but they lost to the Athletics, the eventual world champs. In '91, they won the AL East again, but they again lost to the eventual world champion Twins. And Minnesota Twins that year were led by guys like Kirby Puckett as well. '92 was finally things went right for the Blue Jays. Not only did they beat the Oakland Athletics to get the World Series and Division Championship, they actually they surprised baseball by beating the Braves in the World Series to get Toronto its very first championship. It also makes it the first time that the World Series championship is gone north of the border, as it's Canada's first ever Major League Championship. And then with 7 All-Stars in '93, the '93 Jays repeat the World Series championships, led by Joe Carter. In Game 6, he hit his series-winning walk-off home run, which is one of the most famous moments in baseball history. It was quite the spectacle to see a player to hit that, especially hitting a home run, not just any home run, but a game series-winning home run. That is probably very impressive too as well. And then 1995, they lost some of that swagger. They were still successful, but they really did struggle, though, with the 56-88 record, which was after the strike in '94. However, then in 1997, they had high hopes for the season. They added former Red Sox ace Roger Clemens, who was one of the best pitchers in the league at that time. But they still finished last despite the addition of Roger Clemens. In 2001, it was the 25th anniversary of the franchise, and they finished with a record below 500. I like these background informations. I really appreciate it, Martel. I know a lot of people think, oh, these slideshows aren't meaning lots. But I think it's great to know the information, especially considering that many of these people don't really know baseball very much. So I wanted to give this information out so that way you guys get a basic understanding. I'm not going to go details about everything, but I want to get the general information out. Some of the more important information that I want to talk about. So in 2003, they actually finished 3rd in the American League East, and their first successful record in a long time. And they had some really good players. Roy Halladay, who is a really good pitcher, and he's the most recent Blue Jay to make the Hall of Fame. He won his first of his 2 Cy Youngs that year. And Carlos Delgado barely finishing 2nd in the American MVP. In 2006, it actually experienced their most successful season in years as they won 86 games, I forgot. No, I forgot, it's a typo. 86 games, and they actually finished 2nd in the American League East back in 2006. Unfortunately, they weren't going to get past the Red Sox or the Yankees anytime soon. Then we fast forward back to 2009. They trade Roy Halladay to the Phillies. And despite that, they still won 85 games because for an unexpected reason, Jose Bautista became a superstar and had a career year. Then after a few inconsistent seasons throughout the 2010s, they finally got their division championship in 2015, their first since 1993, and they beat the Orioles in the ALDS of that year, capped off by Jose Bautista's infamous bat flip. He just flips the bat, which became an internet meme. But they lost to the Royals in the ALCS, who again won the World Series. However, and then the Blue Jays returned the next year as a wild card, but they made it all the way back to the ALCS once again, and they lost to the Indians. I mean, that would have been interesting to see. The Blue Jays potentially could have gotten 2 more championships. It took a couple years, and then we fast forward to 2020. The Blue Jays actually started to play in Buffalo due to the COVID-19 restrictions of Canada. And this didn't just affect the Blue Jays, though. This affected all Canadian sports teams. That's why you saw teams like the Toronto Raptors of the NBA and all the hockey teams, they actually played in the United States. Because due to the fact that Canada has much stricter COVID restrictions than we do here in the States. And they would remain there for the 2021 season. However, this was actually inaccurate, because at the end of this month, the Blue Jays will actually be back to being playing in Canada. Definitely something very interesting to point out. Too as well. Now the Blue Jays over the years have had some major iconic players that really define their franchise. And there's been more than a few that can actually define their franchise over the years. The first major stars was Tony Fernandez. Now, he was one of the first stars for the fledgling Blue Jay franchise back in the day. He was a career .288 hitter. He had over 2,000 hits. Actually, 2,276 hits to be exact. And he was most well known for his fantastic glove, as he actually was a four-time Gold Glove winner, and he won those straight, meaning he won 4 straight Gold Glove awards. He was also a 5-time All-Star as well, and during his 17 seasons in the majors, he actually had 4 different stints with the team. Which, if you ask me, that's pretty nuts that you actually have 4 different stints with one team. That's pretty crazy to think about. Then we get to one of the most successful pitchers of the 1980s, Dave Stieb. And he's considered by many to be one of the top 2 Blue Jays pitchers. And he's definitely one of the most successful pitchers in the 80s. When he entered the league, Dave Stieb was very much a power pitcher, relying on his high inside fastball to strike out batters. But his best pitch was his slider, which was a really good pitch. Dave Stieb went 176 and 137 for his career record. He had a career 3.44 ERA, which means he only gave up 3.4 runs per inning, per 9 innings. And he's got 1,669 strikeouts. He was a 7-time All-Star, which means he made 7 All-Star game appearances, the 1985 AL ERA leader, and he even pitched a no-hitter back on September 2nd, 1990. And a fun fact about him is that he won 140 games in the 1980s, making him the second highest win total of a pitcher in the decade, only behind Hall of Fame pitcher Jack Morris. Then the next Blue Jay I do want to talk about is Joe Carter. Now, I think a lot of people know Joe Carter as the guy who hit the home run back in the '93 World Series. But for those who don't know, Joe Carter was actually a really good player for the Blue Jays. While his average wasn't really that great, with a .250 average, he hit 396 home runs and 1,445 RBIs. He was a 5-time All-Star with the Jays, a 2-time Silver Slugger, and was the AL RBI leader in 1986. And then on July 14th of 2015, and during the pregame ceremony of the 2015 All-Star Game, Carter was actually elected by fans as part of the franchise 4 member of the team. And for those who don't know, it actually makes him one of the 4 most valuable players in Blue Jays history, which is pretty crazy. to think about. Joe Carter was not just well known for his hits, he was also well known as a really good player. The next one is probably one of their best sluggers, Carlos Delgado. Now, despite the fact he was only a two-time All-Star and a three-time Silver Slugger, he holds many team records for the franchise. In fact, he's only one of 6 players in Major League history to hit 3 home runs in 10 straight seasons. And at the time, he became the 4th player to do so, which is extremely impressive. He hit 280 in his career. He had 473 home runs, meaning he only had 27 short of 500, 2,003 hits, and 1,512 RBIs. And during his 12 years in Toronto, Carlos Delgado set team records in career home runs, RBIs, runs, and extra base hits, and more, making Delgado a really good slugger. Then we have 2 more legends I do want to talk about. First one is the most recent Toronto Blue Jay to make the Hall of Fame, Roy Halladay. Now, he was drafted 17th overall by the Blue Jays back in the 1995 MLB draft, and he is considered by many to be the best pitcher in team history and one of the best pitchers of the 2000s. Roy Halladay had a career record of 203 wins and 105 losses with a 3.44 ERA and 2,117 strikeouts. He was an 8-time All-Star and was twice the Major League Baseball wins leader and the Cy Young Award back in 2003 and 2010. And one of the things about Roy Halladay that was interesting was he was extremely durable, which meant that because of his durability and his really good performance, Roy Halladay led the league in complete games 7 times. And for those who don't really know those stats, that means he pitched through the entire game without needing any help from relievers. And that makes him second most of any pitcher that started his career after the year of 1945. And here's a tragic thing about Roy Halladay, is that he actually passed away back in 2018 due to an aviation accident. He actually piloted the Icon A5 in Florida. Apparently he was high on drugs, and it crashed the Icon A5 into the water. And that was a really tragic story about Roy Halladay. So that's kind of a tragic ending to a great baseball player. And finally, the last one, and someone that a lot of people were not expecting, Jose Bautista. Now, during his first few seasons in the majors, Jose Bautista was considered by many to be one of the worst players in the league. He always had power, but the thing that Jose Bautista really struggled was his swing was off. So when he came to Toronto back in 2009, hitting coach Dwayne Murphy actually changed his swing a bit, and he became one of the most unlikely career turnarounds in Major League history. During those years in Toronto, he became a superstar for that team. It's hard to believe that a guy like him had such a great career. He hit 247 in his career, he had 344 home runs, and 975 RBIs in his total career. He was a 6-time All-Star, 3 times was the Silver Slugger, and he was twice the Major League Baseball Hank Aaron Award winner and home run leader, meaning he was one of the best hitters in the entire league. And one of the interesting facts about Jose Bautista was his infamous bat flip, and it became an internet sensation, even to this day. You can still see lots of memes out there today for Jose Bautista. And hey, we're right next to the airport. This is actually perfect. So we're gonna take runway 23. We're gonna be taking that runway 23, guys. So we'll be going there for today. So I'm gonna have to bleed off some of the speed. I gotta bleed off the speed. got her down. Holy crap, I got the thing down. I got it down properly this time. Holy moly, I got this thing down. So we land here at Buffalo, Niagara. What a beautiful way to get this fight started. Definitely as well. It's very... There's Druid Zeus. See you there. I flew to the far side of the runway. Yeah, that's the thing about this plane. I'm just hoping Drew Zoo can make it okay. Extra could be a really tricky plane to land. Like, usually I don't have issues landing with normal tail draggers, like the Cubs and such. I don't have trouble landing those. It's the acrobatic planes that are really tricky to land. They're really tricky to get right. Drew Zeus, you can do it. But it seems like mostly everyone's down. That's great. So I'm gonna go ahead and exit out of this for a bit, and we will be going ahead and get the last leg set up. This as well. So where's the last leg starting off? It is from it is Buffalo Niagara International actually. It actually is right here, K Buff. Yeah, K Buff is the international airport of Buffalo, actually. not easy to land. I did not try to land straight the wrong way. I tried doing it. So let's get back to. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the plane first. This plane isn't that difficult to start up. It's actually a surprisingly simple plane to start up. Start, mixture, check, oil pressure's checked. Turn on avionics. Alright, the 300, surprisingly has a pretty high stall speed, so definitely something you gotta be careful. So I need to hit, I'm gonna have to go to runway 32. Yeah, the 300 has a bit of a high stall speed compared to some other planes. Whoops. The other thing too is this plane is especially unstable. It's a very. So I've actually heard in the news. There's some interesting things in the news that I just saw from Flight Sim. Some of the interesting things I saw MSFS add-ons. One of the first is actually, from what I've heard, is Milvez, the one who developed the F4 Corsair, now released new images of their DHC-2 Beaver. Now, this is a plane I've been really wanting for the sim. DHC-2 Beaver is such an iconic plane. I love bush planes. So this would be a perfect addition to the sim. I mean, who doesn't want more bush planes? Bush planes are fun. I saw it. It must be worth it. I'm hoping it does better than the Corsair. Because I think the Beaver is just such a... Dude, if I ever get this plane one day, I'm hoping that I may want to do a special stream in British Columbia. That would be, I mean, a Canadian plane in a Canadian environment of British Columbia. I know they made a... Yeah, Beaver floats in Alaska. I know. Beaver would be such an awesome plane for Alaska. I mean, I'm so excited for it. I can't wait to fly it. if like, I know they made a lot of improvements for the Corsair, but it's such a good plane. The vertical, I'm definitely should get the vertical at some point. I definitely should grab it. So the next city we're going to be flying over the city is the city of Buffalo, New York. It's the second largest city in the state, and it's in Erie County, New York. It was selected as the terminus of the Erie Canal back in 1825, and it became a major hub for ships going to the canal. However, afterwards, it became one of the most important railway hubs in the 1850s, second only to the city of Chicago. And it's still a major influence to this day in city of New York. Now, some of the most important landmarks include Frank Lloyd Wright's Martin House, the Buffalo and Erie Canal Naval and Military Park, which hosts many warships, and Canalside, which is a major hub for the city. Notable people include Henry Wells, Millard Fillmore, the 13th president, and MLB Hall of Famer Warren Spahn. Now, for Henry Wells as a background, Henry Wells is the guy who founded the American Express Company and Wells Fargo Company, two major financial companies in the world. In an interesting fact, the city of Buffalo is actually most internationally known as the birthplace of the Buffalo Wings, and hosts the National Buffalo Wing Festival. And apparently it was invented at the Anchor Bar back in the 40s and 50s, and traditionally served with its own sauce, and it has to be dipped in blue cheese back in Buffalo. Usually in most other places it's ranch, but in Buffalo it's all about the blue cheese. And for the National Buffalo Wing Festival, they actually have their own Buffalo wing eating contest, with the record now being, as of 2019, 285 chicken wings in 12 minutes, which is actually insane. I mean, come on. Do you think I could eat all those chicken wings? No. Now, down below is Salem Field. Now, Salem Field is, let me get that up. Salem Field was actually opened back in 1988 as the home of the minor league Buffalo Bisons, who are the AAA affiliate of the Blue Jays. So it's actually a good thing that they're affiliates in Buffalo. But however, due to COVID-19, it is actually where the Blue Jays have played since 2020. In fact, it has the unique distinction of being the first retro classic ballpark in the world when it was built, and it was originally designed with plans for Major League expansion. But that never came to pass, though. Salem Field had a capacity of 16,000, which makes it the largest in the entire minor leagues, and the dimensions are almost symmetrical, but it's got that really nice classic look to it as well. Now, the notable events at Salem Field include the National Old Timers Baseball Classic, an exhibition game between the U.S. and South Korea in 1992 in preparation for the 92 Olympics, and a viral clip of Rich Ald's famous bat flip. If you ever look that up on YouTube, he did the most disrespectful bat flip ever seen. And that happened here in the ballpark back in 94. Pretty crazy stuff. And to me, I don't know why the city of Buffalo never got photogrammetry. Especially this is the second largest city in the state of New York. Also, for those who don't know, the city of Buffalo is also home to the only National Football League team in the state of New York. And that plays in the state of New York. Because the other two New York teams, the New York Giants and Jets of American football, they actually play in New Jersey. So that's kind of an interesting fact about the city of Buffalo. And now we've flown over to Canada. We're now on the Canada-US border. We've flown over to Fort Erie. Pretty nice. We're going to take a bit of a low approach. Now, the next destination will be a very exciting one for the chats, and we get to see one of the great natural wonders of the world, Niagara Falls. So there's actually consisting of 3 waterfalls. The largest of the 3, Horseshoe Falls, is actually the most powerful waterfall in North America as measured by flow rate. And that's located on the US-Canada border. The 2 smaller ones, the American and Bridalveil Falls, they are located within the United States. And according to the state of New York, 9.5 million people visit Niagara Falls each year, which is pretty interesting. And thankfully in the sim, they are actually photogrammetried, so we get to actually see them in its full detail. Now, over here to my right is going to be Grand Island, which is in New York. But for this next leg, we're just going to flow over to the Niagara River. So we do some riverside flying. Here. I definitely should try and get download the vertical. I've also heard that they recently updated the Savage Carbon and Savage Gravel. They also did updates on that. Supermate visit here at Alvey. Yep. So we'll definitely get a nice flyover to Niagara Falls. In the movie Superman 2. Yep. Do some really nice low flying. Hey, what's this I see in the background? Is that Toronto in the background? All the way over here. Oh dear, my game is... That's weird. Time to put the pedal to the metal. It's not that I don't think the vertical was a good idea. I think the vertical would be a bit too fast. And there is Niagara Falls, not far from here. There's the city of Niagara Falls. And I think we're going to fly over Horseshoe Falls because I think that's Horseshoe Falls. This is the largest of the 2 waterfalls in Niagara. Niagara Falls. Then there's the smaller American. Yeah, it looks great. I like Niagara Falls a lot. Absolutely beautiful. I know they retouched the place since release. I know. Now there are two more places we should be. I think there are now a couple things we gotta look for. Three more slides. So the first major slideshow is now our final destination, Toronto, Ontario. Now Toronto, Ontario is actually the capital city on the Canadian province of Ontario. It is the most populated city in all of Canada, with around over 2 million people in the city itself, and the metropolitan area is around 9 million. Now, Toronto came into existence in 1793 after the Toronto Purchase, as named the town of York, and later was designated to be the capital of Upper Canada. And Toronto has been a major hub for it's the main international hub for the country of Canada. It has been used for all sorts of entertainment, technology. It's been the major center for all of it in Canada. Now, notable landmarks in Toronto include the CN Tower, which is the tallest structure in all of Canada, Toronto Island Park, which is full of natural parks and stuff in the city center, and finally the Hockey Hall of Fame, which is the hockey equivalent to the National Baseball Hall of Fame museum that we just visited earlier. Leagues as well. Now, notable people from Toronto, Canada, they include Drake, Edward S. Rogers Jr., and Tara Strong. Now, a background about all three of these people. Drake is one of the most famous rappers and musicians in the world right now, and he actually got his start not from music, but actually from television, as Drake was actually first starred in the Canadian television series Degrassi, the Next Generation. And once he did, then afterwards, he became a rapper. And he was one of the world's best-selling music artists with over 170 million records sold. He's got 4 Grammy Awards, 6 American Music Awards, and he's gotten 27 Billboard Music Awards, the most of anyone ever. He also has the most placements in the top Hot 100 of the Billboards with 231 songs. In addition to this, he was once so influential, he contributed to 5% of Toronto's tourism, which is insane to think about. Now, Edward S. Rogers, it was the CEO of Rogers Communication, one of the 2 major communication businesses in Canada, and he's the one who founded the company to become Rogers Center. And finally, Tara Strong is one of the most prolific voice actors in the world right now. She's voiced acted in many of the most iconic cartoons, including The Fairly OddParents, Dexter's Laboratory, Teen Titans, and more. in the DC Comics animated stuff. She voices Harley Quinn, and she's all over the world. So definitely one of the most well-known actresses. And finally, the fun fact is that Toronto is one of the most diverse cities in the world. Actually, there are over 200 different ethnic groups are represented in the city of Toronto, and over 150 different languages are spoken in the city of Toronto, making it extremely diverse. As well, which makes it quite the diverse city. And then we're on Lake Ontario. Yes, we're flying over the Great Lakes. But I mean, why not do some lakeside flying? I think that would be really fun. It looks like our cloud cover is clear because it's now clear skies. As well. So absolutely very, very nice. Goblin Zeus says the scenery is much better than the last time. I know. They actually made an update there in World Update 2 when they did the United States over again. So they redid the entirety of Niagara Falls. That's why it looks a lot better. Now, for ballparks, let's talk about Toronto's the two stadiums that actually went through. The first one, question: are you gonna fly in Colonel Fork's Oshkosh fly-in Friday? I might join his fly-in on Friday. I might. I know I already did some practice earlier today with Foxtrot, and I did his Oshkosh practice thing for him, so I'm very well aware of what to do for it. So I might join it, Kazaki. That's a good question. So for the two ballparks it's been through, the first one is Exhibition Stadium. Now, this was actually a multi-purpose stadium, and it was home for the Blue Jays from 1977 to 1989. Not just for the Blue Jays, but for the Canadian Football League's Argonauts. And I bet I should ask this in another question at some other point. I would discuss the differences between Canadian football and American football, because some of the rule sets is pretty different. And I consider this to be one of the worst multi-purpose stadiums. Now, the dimensions are symmetrical, and it had a seat capacity of 40,000. However, the stadium had many issues. The first is its seating configuration, which, if you can see from this picture, notice how far some of the seats actually stick out. It's not circular like some of the other multi-purpose stadiums. Instead, it was just straight out, which meant you had some horrible sight lines. In fact, if you sit one of those in the back, you would be like 120 feet away from home plate. So the view is terrible. Even the multi-purpose stadiums of the Americans weren't so bad. And it was only because they had to accommodate for the Canadian football, because Canadian football fields are much bigger than their American football field counterparts. Also, in addition to this, you also had to deal with the winds and colds from Lake Ontario, which meant snow was a problem. And finally, because it was located on Lake Ontario, this was notorious for being a feeding ground for the city's seagull population. Yes, I am not kidding. That is actually true. Seagulls are a problem. In fact, at one point, in 1983, Dave Winfield, the star of the Yankees, was actually arrested for killing a seagull with a baseball. That is, I'm not kidding. One of the Yankees players got arrested for killing a seagull. Apparently, Winfield was doing his warm-up exercise, and when he threw the baseball to the bat boy, it struck a seagull in the head. Which is pretty funny. And apparently, another interesting fact is that the stadium also held the Grey Cup for 12 times over a 24 period. And basically what the Grey Cup is, it's the championship game for the Canadian Football League. the CFL. So that's kind of what it is. And finally, the last thing, Rogers Center. Originally opened as Skydome, it originally opened due to the fact, thanks to the all the snow and stuff, people were tired of it, so they wanted a retractable roof stadium so they could play in the cold, and it did. It opened in 1989 as the home of the Blue Jays. It was the first stadium to have a retractable motorized roof. And I know there have been other attempts at a retractable roof stadium. Montreal even had one of those two. Olympic Stadium in Montreal used to try to do one, but it never worked. And it also had 348 room hotel attached to it, with 70 of the rooms overlooking the field. So yes, this thing had actual hotels, which was located in center field. Terror of Seagulls, what a nice name for players. Dave Winfield, yeah, he was a Terror of Seagulls. Yeah. The dimensions are actually symmetrical, and it has a 49,000 seating capacity, which makes it pretty nice. And yes, there has been a few balls hit in the upper deck, and the fifth deck is really high up. There have been balls hit up there. Now, notable moments include Joe Carr's walk-off home run in the '93 World Series, Jose Bautista's bat flip in the 2015 ALDS, and the 1991 Major League Baseball All-Star Game was held here. And in addition to the Blue Jays, the Rogers Center actually hosted the Argonauts of the Canadian Football League, and yes, the National Basketball Association's Raptors played in the Skydome. They actually played in the Rogers Center for 4 years, from '95 to 1999. Which is kind of, it's really kind of weird to have a basketball team play in a baseball stadium, but then again, the Carrido and Syracuse could do that, so there it is. And look at this, Toronto's in front of us. We're in Toronto, boys. We're north of the border. Please declare all imports. The only import here is my drink and a Murph. The 300 is quite stable if trimmed. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like the Cerebit. It's stable. Once you get the trim, it's actually really, really stable. You would think an aerodynamically aircraft is stable, but yeah, it actually is quite docile. There's the CN Tower right in front of us. There's the CN Tower. There is Rogers Center right below it. It's right next to it. And if you get the CN Tower, you actually have great views of the city. So we're going to actually buzz around the city for a bit. And then once we do, does the 300 have autopilot? No. It does not have autopilot, unfortunately. But I mean, it's an aerobatics plane. It wouldn't need autopilot. So yes, I've been flying this all. So we'll be landing on runway 26 since it is the longer of the two runways. First is Exhibition Stadium. That's actually been demolished since then. So right in front of us is BMO Field, and that's the home of the Toronto FC, which is the Major League Soccer team here in Canada. There's the Exhibition Place grounds right below. Now, not far from here is Pearson, which is Toronto's most busy airport. It's the busiest airport in Canada and one of the most busy in the entire North American continent. Here's Toronto. Now it appears that Rochester has its roof closed. They usually do that when it's raining or snowing, so they can close the roof if it gets too cold as well. There's the CN Tower. Now, in addition, there's also the Air Canada Center, which is located around here somewhere. There's Rochester down here. Now notice the retractable roof is closed. Now there's a motor down there, and that can open up the roof by turning on an electric motor, and that would open the roof. It would open from side to side, opening the roof. There's the CN Tower. And there's runway 26, so we need to get prepared for landing. There is the Air Canada Center, which is located right here. That's home of the Raptors and the Maple Leafs of the National Hockey League play there. I flew right through the tower. Consider myself lucky. Now I need to bleed off speed. I'm going to have to get ready to land. This is the really tricky part. This is a handcrafted airport, mind you, too. And I'm down. Holy crap. Oh my goodness, I am actually down. Yes! I'm actually down. Yes! This is awesome. There's front to all. I see you here. Druid Zeus about to land. But there's a reason I picked this airport over, let's say, Pearson. Because none of those have a great view of the city of Toronto. How did you like my naval landing? Hope you got that in video. You got pretty good. Here, Mantrell's here. Druid Zeus. Looks like everyone's coming. Look at that, everyone came out here in force today. Just waiting for a friend to all make an appearance. Okay, let me get a picture of all of you. Boom. I got one more picture to take, and then we'll be done. And I think that's it. We got the pictures done. That was a really good stream. That was really good. Everything went smoothly. I had no issues today. I'm very happy to report that. So, I want to thank everyone who flew there. Martel 738, Druid Goblin Zeus, Martel, and friends all. Thank you guys so much for flying with me today. So yes, we're here in Canada, Toronto to be exact. I mean, what a beautiful view of the city. Absolutely wonderful. So, next week, guys, for next Sunday at 1900 Zulu, we're going to be flying to Montreal, Canada, Montreal in Quebec. We're going to be visiting the former Major League team that once visited there, the Montreal Expos. We'll be flying over many iconic landmarks throughout much of Canada. So make sure you all stay tuned for there. But before we get going, we're going to find someone to raid, and I think there might be someone who I think I would love to raid. I'm going to actually see if we can pay Sim Caesar a visit. He's going to be flying over Australia today. So I think let's give Sim Caesar a warm welcome, shall we? Okay, guys. I want to say thank you to everyone, and see you next time.
I hope you don't mind me saying this, Kill Dead Red Dead. They picked Scotty the Hottie, which was an outstanding choice. I hope you don't mind me saying. I shouldn't have said that because they whispered it to me, so maybe they're embarrassed about getting a sub to the Scotty the Hottie channel. But you know what?